I just want to get this out of the way before starting. Tears of the Kingdom is probably my favorite game ever made. But isn't this game missing something? Today we're going to go over exactly what Tears of the Kingdom should have included. Everyone knows Guardians are the most iconic enemies in Breath of the Wild. They're gone. Nothing about the end of Breath of the Wild actually explained that they'd be wiped out, especially without a trace. And this not only affects the hollowness of some of the overworld areas in the game, but it truly becomes a disappointment when you see the ancient set missing, as well as the weapons. I mean, this thing is a goddamn chainsaw, that's badass. But them being gone feels like an Achilles heel to such a masterpiece game, and I hope they bring them back in the DLC. But on the topic of armor sets, you have the well-worn armor and the Nintendo Switch shirt. Now, these aren't particularly the greatest armor sets we've had in Breath of the Wild. To me, they're somewhat nostalgic in a way. They're the first pieces of clothing that you got in the game. And I remember Switch launch night exploring the Great Plateau. This set was a part of my memory at that time. It might not matter to most, but it seems odd to me. The Worm Doublet is the first and one of the very few cold resistance armor pieces in Breath of the Wild. Tears of the Kingdom got rid of it and gave us less cold resistance armor pieces to wear in general. It just feels like an incredibly weird choice for me, made for seemingly no reason at all. Give it back to us, Nintendo. The last armor set missing in the game was the Salvager set. Now, it's easily the worst fit in the Xenoblade series, and it looks even more strange on Link. However, there's zero reason why they couldn't have just put this set in a couple of chests somewhere in the depths. Even if it's not the best, it's certainly more interesting than the Zora armor in my book. So when you open the game, you'll immediately notice something different. Master Mode is nowhere to be found. Master Mode isn't just a difficulty setting. Master Mode makes all enemies regenerate HP over time, they can detect you easier, and it even introduces gold enemies into the game, which as of now aren't even in Tears of the Kingdom. While this not being in Tears of the Kingdom at launch is disappointing to many of us, it's certainly not the biggest deal in the world. Speaking of DLC from the original game, we've got the Trials of the Sword. Now I know this would be repetitive if they gave us exactly the same thing over again, in the same exact area, but the concept of stripping Link down to nothing and throwing you into a very contained gauntlet of rooms is an idea that could work even better with the new abilities in Tears of the Kingdom, and aren't tried at all in this game other than the shrines. The Master Sword doesn't need a power upgrade, but there's gotta be some type of reward that people will grind their ass off for. Next up, we've got the Divine Beast and Master Cycle. The Divine Beasts don't need to come back, but they could do something cool with it. And I mean, the Master Cycle is kind of outclassed by the building mechanic anyways, so you might as well put it somewhere, right? But no, the real final contender for what's missing in Tears of the Kingdom is underwater traversal. I thought the cave before the underwater temple in this game was so cool of an idea, but they could easily have taken it to the next level. I mean, they could have had entire underwater cityscapes in the game, and sunken ships with treasure to obtain. You could even put maps in the game with X's to show where they are. Underwater traversal was something that everybody and their mother wanted for this game, and Nintendo not putting it in the game is a little bit disappointing. But you know, here's hoping for Breath of the Wild 3.